Right here and now in you, I'm found forever. I am yours. No height or depth, nor life or death can take me from your love. You never leave. Jesus, your blood covers me. I'm surrounded by your peace. Right here and now in you, I'm found forever. I am yours. No height or depth, nor life or death can take me from your love. Right here and now in you, I'm found forever. I am yours. No height or depth, nor life or death can take me from your love. I'm found in your love, Lord. I'm found in your peace, and I'm found in your grace, and I'm found in your mercy. I'm found in your love, Lord. I'm found in your peace, and I'm found in your grace, and I'm found in your mercy. I'm found in your love, Lord. I'm found in your peace, and I'm found in your grace, and I'm found in your mercy. I'm found in your love, Lord. I'm found in your peace, and I'm found in your grace, and I'm found in your mercy, Lord. Right here and now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? This is Pastor Jeremy right here, and we have a very special guest today. Pastor Nina Renee Aloysius Bedell is here in studio, in the GDL studio.
I don't know where that came from, but okay.
But we are...
It is Renee, is my middle name.
It is Renee. Well, we are glad that you're here with us, joining us. This is such a cool opportunity for us to come into your homes. We know that the nation and the community and you are on lockdown to some degree. And so it's very cool that we also live in a day and time where technology, we can just connect in a live format just like this. And build one another up, encourage one another. And so that is the objective of Guts Discipleship Live. This is our third week of it, and it is only getting bigger and better, and more people are getting involved and listening. And at the end of the day, what we want you to know is Guts Church, by and large, is here to help you win. That is our mission. That is our heart. That is the message of the gospel. That is the good news of the gospel. And that is what Guts Discipleship Live is, another tool that we can use to help you win in your life. And so Guts Church is committed to you. We want you to know that during this time and during this season, when we are under a global quarantine and there's all the threats of the doom and the gloom that's lingering, that you are not alone, that we are committed to you, that we are here to help you. It's something very cool that we have every Friday here is Friday Groceries at 10 o'clock, and tomorrow is no different. We are doing it differently. we have tomorrow what I affectionately refer to as the Drive Up DC. The Drive Up DC, where you can just drive up and get groceries. We're not going to be congregating together. We want to respect all the directions and instructions of our local officials and government leaders and so on, but we still want to be here to help people. And so if you need supplies, if you need resources, tomorrow at 10 o'clock is our Friday groceries. And tomorrow's the Drive Up DC, where you can come. The DC stands for Distribution Center, if you're not familiar with Guts Church lingo. But the Drive Up Distribution Center, where you can drive up and we will bring the groceries to your vehicle and help you out and other supplies that we have available for you. But just know that that's available. We will have service Sunday. It is going to be a live interactive message for you Sunday where you can join us. It was very cool. She and I were in Missouri over the weekend, and it was a very cool moment that we were able to just watch online. And here we are with my brothers and my sister-in-law and my niece and my nephews, and just as a family unit to sit there and have church together was a pretty cool experience. Yeah. And for its own reasons. And so we encourage you this Sunday, make sure you tune in for the 9:30 to 11 o'clock services, where you can just be a part of Guts Church right where you're at. And so again, ministry is available to you. We have people right now that are ready to talk to you. We want you to send in your questions. We want you to voice and communicate maybe things you're thinking about, things that you need, how we can help you. Just know that we're in your corner. We're committed to you, and that's what we want to do. So if you're watching this on Facebook, we want you to, of course, like the page, share, let people know that it's on right now, and get involved, get the community involved. This is a live forum for you to interact and connect. This is an opportunity for you to connect with the people. This is a community of people where you can learn and grow. If you're watching this on YouTube, please click the subscribe button, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it, let people know that it's on, and then we want you to message and comment. We have a pretty unique format that we're going to do today. I figured that you have enough coronavirus talk going on. There's enough chatter out there about the coronavirus, and more than enough that you probably didn't want to have to hear more from us. And so, plus, I would say that we're not the professionals on the coronavirus, right? We're just doing what we are told to do and being obedient. But what we can do is maybe give you a reprieve from all of the stress that the world has been under lately, and just share a little bit of our story. One of the formats that we have with Guts Discipleship Live is to get to share stories and tell stories, because stories, number one, are inspirational a lot of times, regardless of what the story is. We can draw inspiration from various things. Number two, it often helps people realize, like, oh gosh, I thought I was alone in that. It's very cool to hear your story. Number three, it creates connection, right? Just by hearing a story, you're going to feel like you know people better. You're going to feel like you can trust people better. And as pastors here at this church, under Pastor Bill and Pastor Sandy, it's an honor to operate in that role. But we want you to feel like you can know us and trust us, and hopefully draw some inspiration in that regard. But I heard it said a long time ago that Scripture is the most powerful tool you have when it comes to doing ministry, but the second most powerful tool you have is your story. Because at the end of the day, I can tell you what God's done in my life. I may not be able to quote Scripture, I may not be able to tell you the reference, but I can tell you what God's done in my life, and you can draw from that, and you can be inspired from that. And so that's what we want to do today, is just simply tell a little bit of our story, and more specifically, her story. But how
There's
my
not
story,
a whole lot to tell.
but how my story. Oh, we're gonna get some juice. We're gonna get some dirt. We're gonna dig deep and get some stuff. But my story obviously swerves into that, and so we just want to take a little bit of time to share our story, and we're gonna talk about a lot of different things. We're gonna talk about our childhoods, and how we grew up, and the environments we grew up in. We'll talk about the teenage, college years. We'll talk about dating. We're gonna talk about marriage. We're gonna talk about parenting. All of that factors into our story, our relationship with Guts Church, our involvement at Guts Church, the impact that Guts Church has had in our life, and actually setting us to be here in this moment with you. And so if you have questions about that, let's take a time out on Corona, and let's if you have questions, life still goes on. I had this in my notes the other day that the world has seemingly stopped or is on pause, but life is not. Life is continuing on, and there's still purpose in this day, and there's still purpose, and God's still orchestrating His perfect plans in your life. And so whatever stage of life you're in, whatever's going through, if you're a single person that has questions about dating, if you're a young married, or maybe you've been married for a little while, you have questions about marriage and relationships, you have questions about friendships, we're going to talk about friends. If you have questions about anything regarding the church, we are here, and we want you to ask those questions. She loves to be put on the spot. She loves the attention. She loves the spotlight. And if you would just call in or message us with any direct questions about her personal life, she would love to answer that for you. She would love to do that. It's where she lives.
Okay.
And so please take advantage of this opportunity, really, for all of us, and for the benefit of other people to listen and learn. But
Well, okay.
but this is my wife. We've been married for. Yeah, see?
13
Let me tell you
years
something.
in May.
Let me tell you the first thing you want to know about us is I'm the one that remembers stuff and she does not, okay? So that's the first thing we want to know because everybody would assume the opposite, but oh, no. We've
We
been
have
married.
lots of those things. Also, like how maybe a common assumption is that the wife uses up more words every day or that kind of thing. We're also reversed in that way as well.
Cheap
so
shot right out of the gate. I like that. I like that.
I think, just sharing that up front. Well, I do think it's good. I'm glad we're doing this today as far as because one thing I keep thinking over the last few days is I want my life to keep moving forward. I want to keep growing. I want to keep learning. I want to keep getting things done at the house. And so I just think it's good to talk about things that we want to grow in that are personal, that are whatever, but just to where it's not like, I don't know, I just feel this sense of everything feeling like it's on halt or on pause, and I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that we know that we can still move forward in every area of life. We may not be able to go do a lot of things maybe we were able to do 2 weeks ago, but that doesn't mean things stop. So anyways, back to our stories.
Yeah, that's good. Life keeps progressing. No time to take breaks. We got things to do.
Right.
Like, for example, how long have we been married?
What are you about to say? Oh.
We got married on May 19th, 2007.
Yeah.
So we're coming up on 13
Yeah.
years. And we have 3 children. But that's where we're at. And of course, we're assistant pastors here at Guts Church. And so how did we get to this point? And we're gonna take it back to the beginning. We're gonna take it all the way back. We're going all the way back, people, because it all builds,
Really
right?
quickly. We'll do it really quickly.
Oh no, we're gonna slow down. We're gonna drink this baby in for a little bit. And we're gonna start with you, Sweet Pea.
Yes.
I want you to tell a little bit about your childhood. Let people know. Obviously you don't have to expound it any more than you want to, but what kind of environment did you grow up in? What kind of town did you grow up in? What was the home environment like? Parents, siblings. Again, what was your childhood like?
I had a very lonely childhood.
That's a good start. That's good.
That would maybe
Way
start
to lift
what
their
I
spirits,
don't
honey.
like to talk about. No, I say that because my sister is 8 years older than me and my brother's 11 years older than me. So they both, right out of high school, pretty much right out of high school, got married, started having families, doing all of that. And so I say it was lonely because my parents moved kind of out of town a little bit when I was young as well. I think I was 5. And so we didn't have any neighbors except for this older couple. They were probably in their I would say 80s probably, but also I was 6, so they could have been like 60. But I remember the things I did after school would be like go to their house. We would make cookies.
You had a rabbit. You had a pet rabbit.
Yeah, I did have a pet rabbit. So I talked to him a lot. I had him for 8 years. He was huge.
Man, does anybody feel sad for her yet? She's a lonely person
His
with a
name
rabbit
was
that she
Thumper.
spent time with after school.
Oh, yeah. I used
Yeah.
to play in the backyard and like put grasshoppers in a jar and stuff like that. And so it was rough. But anyways, they would also like show me their rock collection. It was really fun. Anyways, so my parents weren't saved when they had this also, when they had my brother and sister, because I always thought I was an accident because I came 8 years later. So I just, put 2 and 2 together like, oh, I was probably a
So you,
surprise.
right out of the gate, just had a bad identity right from the
Yeah,
start.
it was, like I said, it was rough.
Thought you were an
I
accident.
actually had a really great childhood, but my parents told me later, they probably could have told me a bit sooner, but they're like, they got saved and they wanted to have one more child that they wanted to dedicate to the Lord. So that was me,
Oh, man.
obviously.
And man, did we all reap the benefits of that one? You know what I mean? That's good stuff.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I mean, childhood.
Basically, what she's saying is she was lonely, but she was also the chosen one. You know what I mean?
Yes,
So like,
kind of like
her
Joseph,
siblings were 8 and
if
10
we
years
wanna
older,
compare to anyone.
and she was the golden child from heaven, right? And
Pretty
so
much,
they raised
pretty
her.
much.
So she had the benefit of, I say benefit, maybe it was or wasn't, but of basically being an only child, and also at that time, obviously with her mom and dad, having made a commitment to follow Christ. She grew up in a Christian home, in a Christian environment, and they were changing their standards and growing in the things of the Lord. So So you grew up that way, and that's something we have in
Yeah.
common that we've often joked about because
Yeah.
I'm also the last sibling of three. I have two older brothers, and I grew up in a single parent home, and so that has its own dynamics and all that. But we often talk about being the youngest siblings. That man, we're pretty chill.
Yeah.
We're pretty
We're
chill.
hoping someone will do things for us.
We're waiting for some older
Who's gonna
siblings.
get this done?
We're waiting for the older siblings to come and check in on us and make sure we're all right. But so we've learned a lot, both in the good way and a bad way, I guess. But being aware of it is the first step, recognition, and so we are aware of that. But before we leave the kind of the childhood section, what would be one thing that you would say that you are trying to replicate now as a mom or as a parent from your childhood? Both maybe one thing you're trying to replicate that was healthy and valuable that you want to pay that same principle forward to your home and to your children.
Yeah.
But then maybe it's what's one thing, and not to expose anybody, but what's one thing that you want to protect from that you. Because obviously we can learn, even when things don't go the way we want them to, I learned how not to do it. And so, again, without throwing people under the bus, we're all, flawed, even as parents. What's one thing that you want to replicate that your mom and dad did well, or that your family life, your home life was great, or maybe one thing that you maybe tried to protect from that you would have done different?
One thing to replicate, like I did. I grew up in a tiny town of like 2,000 people, super simple. Truly, I would just go out in the backyard almost every day after school and talk to my rabbit or whatever. And, but a little bit later, I had two friends. One was from almost birth, just because our families went to the same church, and so we were always in the kids' church together. The other one moved to town when I was in the 6th grade. And they were my two best friends. I just had a weekend with them last weekend. We're still really great friends. We haven't been together in 20 years, but we still get together. Lived in the same area. But what was really key for me were those two friendships, because through teenage years, through high school, we all loved God. We weren't necessarily serving God. I wouldn't say we were like active in our church, but we were saved. We knew that we wanted to make good choices, I guess. And that was a lifesaver for me. We had fun. We went and did things. But the fact that I had two people that made good choices, that I had so much fun with, and that just weren't, rebellious, or I don't know. And so as far as replicating, I'm already praying those types of friends into my kids' lives. I want Stella, Mila, Lincoln to have a couple of strong Christian, and even further than where I was. Like I said, I wasn't like serving, all of that. And I know that they're going to be further along than I was as a teenager in high school, all of that. But that's my biggest prayer maybe not biggest, but that's a big prayer for them, is God bring the right intentional kids into their life now or later, whenever, but that they can have a couple of people that are going the same direction as them, that know and love God, that are making good choices, and that they can have still fun with, that they feel like they're not missing out on anything. And so that's something I would say to replicate, just because those two friends of mine, they're like family, and they were lifesavers to me back going through junior high and high school and all of that. Something I try to implement now is just creating experiences for my kids. I will say, both of my parents worked full time. They had already kind of, not quite, but my siblings were older. They'd already gone through all the kid stages with them. And so we didn't do a whole lot of, I don't know how you would say that, like fun kid experiences that I remember.
She had a rabbit and didn't do any fun stuff as a kid. So thank God for those friends. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. So with my kids, that's always in the back of my mind, is like, I want to go on a fun summer trip every year with them, where it's just our family, or maybe a couple of friend families with us. Or I try to make experiences for them that are going to be memorable, that really the end goal would be them loving their life with their family, that they're not one. And I've heard this year say this before, like, you want your kids to be at your house. You want your kids to enjoy being with you, so that they're not having to look for that somewhere else. So
yeah, that's a big deal. And I know that we talk about that a lot, and trying to create experiences. And I'm harder on myself than she is on herself in this regard. I don't know if you're hard on yourself at all, to be honest.
Not really. But I want to say
I'm
something
hard
about
on
that.
always wanting to create a peaceful home and environment
Yes.
for the kids.
I do want to say, though, I feel like everything, at the end of the day, you have to be led by the Spirit and you have to find balance. Because I could also argue the side of, I do see a lot of parenting, especially with maybe any kind of pressure we feel to like put all of our amazing experiences on social media, to want to create that every day. That's not what I'm talking about. I don't want to also over experience my kids
that's good.
either, to where there's this pressure of like, oh my God, I'm the best mom ever. I did this and that and blah, blah, blah. I'm not saying that. I'm saying just for our family, for the relationships that we have together. Like I tell the kids all the time, I'm like, that's your best friend right there. Friends are going to come and go. Your best friend is right here, you know, or whatever. And that's what I mean, is that I just want our family to have a strong relationship. So experiences help create that, not for the purpose of, hey, Brian, not for the purpose of like, oh, you guys know what I mean.
They know what you mean. They know what you mean. You gotta poke the mama bear. She's getting in her preacher mode over here.
Yeah. Okay.
I just one little takeaway, but I think you got a dissertation of parenting on where to go from. But but also very great things. Let's transition a little bit into the teenage years. We probably had very different teenage lifestyles.
We did.
Thank you for affirming that. And just the high school, college years. How did you deal with? I mean, I know some of your situation, but when I wanted to talk about friends a little bit, we'll talk about that, because I think a lot of people have questions about friendships and how to be the best friend, or how to be a better friend, or how to acquire more friends, or anything like that, or what to look for in a friend. But anyway, back to these years, obviously pivotal years. What is something in your experience? I mean, tell us a little bit about your teenage experience. You probably highlighted a little bit already, but you know, your bouts with temptation, like everybody else in high school and college is dealing with, and your attitude on it, your perspective on it. Yeah. Let it rip.
If you guys have, anybody that's been at Guts for a while have probably heard me talk about this, about not being led by our emotions and things like that, because when I was not a very good friend. Like in high school, I don't know, I could blame it maybe on hormones or something, but I was so inconsistent, up and down, selfish, inconsiderate. I would literally get up one day.
Boy, am I a lucky guy. She had a rabbit.
I'm talking about in high school.
She had no fun as a kid, and she's selfish. Man, can somebody throw up a shout out and a prayer for Pastor
Which
Dubs
is
over
why
here?
we always go back to being led by the Spirit.
Jesus,
But I
redemption.
remember in high school, and it's so funny, my two friends that I still am friends with, I mean, I would literally wake up one morning and be in a funky mood and not talk to them for the whole day. And we laughed later because they were like, oh, we would know, like, hey, Nina's not talking to us today. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is the matter with me? But that was kind of how I was in high school and what I went through. And I realized later, you know, I mean, I wish that I had an understanding of the Holy Spirit in my life earlier in life, because then I would know that I can't allow myself to be controlled by that, which this is the thing too. I think a lot of times we think when someone gets older, they can understand things better. They can serve God better. And that's another prayer for our kids all the time, is that I'm not going to wait until they are older. I'm not going to wait until they graduate high school or till they're past that hormone phase to start hearing the Holy Spirit. I want them to start doing that now, to where if I had been equipped that way at my high school stage, I could have been a much better friend. I could have been so much more effective and just further along now, because then later I'm having to learn these things like, oh my gosh, I was so horrible to my friends, which, you know, it was just kind of like an up and down roller coaster, and
Well,
I don't even know what I was leading.
Well,
towards that.
what's cool about it, I think I can help you out, honey. What's very cool about it is most of the temptations that teenagers deal with, especially back in the 90s. I know it's
Yeah, it's
the
way
same.
different
It's
now.
the same, but it's different and more enhanced probably
Yeah.
today. But sin is sin. It's been around from day one. So, but for her, she referenced maybe wish she would have been able to hear the Holy Spirit better, which is something that we can teach our children even at an early age, so that when they get to that season, they know how to do it. And push past the hormones and the feelings and the emotions to hear the Holy Spirit. But she was one of those that was successful in the sense of not falling prey to all your typical high school temptations as far as drinking or drugs or whatever, not because she was hearing the Holy Spirit, because of the way she was wired. She just thought, that's stupid, I'm not going to do that. And if everybody else is going that way, I'm not going to go that way, just to be different. I don't know. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I mean, more or less, let people in on your thought process or your heart behind why you didn't go that direction. I mean, you knew better, as most of us do.
I mean, like I said, I was saved then. I knew who God was. I wouldn't say it went much further than that. I didn't know about reading the Word or like I said, hearing from the Holy Spirit. But part of that is my personality, which I know we're not even to lean too much or identify too much with like, oh, this is my personality or whatever. But I've always kind of been like I don't know, like wanting to be different, like maybe everybody is that way. But I would watch like friends or other, we would go, my two friends and I, we would still go to parties where people are drinking and smoking
heathen
stuff and things like that. But we didn't do it because I watched how everyone else looked and how they did silly things. And even as a 16-year-old, I was like, oh, that's so stupid. I don't want to do that, which I don't know what that was. Maybe it was.
Probably. I mean, obviously, we look at it as a protective measure, God using, but
yeah,
personality. The point is, and really, I bring it up is the thing to draw from it is when we recognize to any degree when we ask God to show us something. I know I'm looking for the right words here, but even now as adults, she's still great at this. But we see something it's like that's a silly behavior. Yeah. That's an unfruitful behavior, and she was able to diagnose that, whether she realized it or not in high school, to diagnose that's silly. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
And had the fortitude and the energy to just say, we're not going that direction. I'm not going to do that in my life.
And I think whatever the method was or whatever caused me to go that direction, that's another valuable thing I would say, kind of going back to parenting, is praying over our kids that they a protection over them. I mean, part of it was that my parents decided to have me because they had gotten saved and they wanted to dedicate their child to the Lord. And so I do recognize and see that through my life, there has been a protective covering over my life from different things. And so I think that's valuable too. And that's something we always pray over our kids is like, God, we know that you're just entrusting them to us, but they're yours. And so we thank you for covering them, for keeping them where your direction is leading. And so I definitely give credit to God because I know that even when I didn't know he was there or when I didn't know that he was maybe guiding me, he was. And so that's a huge thing that we always talk about with our kids too.
Yeah, and you may have not been able to tell, but we have different personalities and different muscle memory, different behavior patterns.
As in opposite.
And I, on the other hand, wanted to be at every party and wanted to show everybody that I was the funnest guy there. And let me tell you what it got me, okay, people? I had to ace my biology exam, my senior year. I had to ace it to graduate. But I did achieve my goal because I was nominated. I'm from a town called Poplar Bluff. I was voted the Bluff King of my high school career. And what it got me is enshrined in our yearbook, sitting on a throne, a porcelain throne in the bathroom, if you will, wearing a Burger King crown as the Bluff King. That was my picture, and that's what I had to show for high school. So if you don't think that it's stupid behavior or that it's going to prove fruitful somewhere down the road, that's what you're going to get with stupid decisions like that. She, on the other hand, whatever her motive was, her personality, made better decisions, went on to go to Bible school, went on to ORU, met me. I mean, it's just been a one thing after another, blessing
glory
after
to
blessing.
Glory
You know
there.
what I'm saying? Glory to glory, nonstop. But yeah, that's that.
Yeah, let's move on from those years.
Well,
into our 20s.
Don't tell me what to do. I'm hosting the show.
I would like to temporarily begin hosting.
Oh my gosh. Let's talk about dating for a little bit. Huh?
Oh,
Not
send
you
us
and me.
your questions.
Not you and me dating. I want to talk about your dating experience in high school and college, and just how you realize now in
I was trying
retrospect,
to move
all
past
those other
high
men were so
school.
so less than what you needed before you found me. Like, let's talk about your processing
earth
and your
is
thinking
happening
of
right
experiencing during dating. No, but for real, I want you to be able to help some young girls in the realm of dating. What was your dating life like? You had a couple of boyfriends that obviously I could crush if I had to, but like, talk about your just your perspective on dating, your dating life and experience.
Oh, I just don't even know what to say about
How many
that.
boyfriends have you had?
Okay. Who cares to
Isn't that
know
a fair
any
question?
of that?
That's a fair question. Did you have
No.
did you have a serious boyfriend in high school?
Not in high school. I had boyfriends in high school, pretty much
Yeah.
all throughout high school, but they were never anything serious, which maybe that would be and that's probably my advice for my girls. First of all, they can't start dating until they're like,
Not just advice for your girls, but tell us your deal
well,
about dating.
that's how I think, you know.
Hey, tell us about your date with Pastor Chano, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Man, did we just start a gossip train with that one? Wow.
Did everyone hear that?
Yeah, we just.
I mean, was
That
it
was
actually
called
like a
Whoa,
date,
wait,
or was
what?
it just a get together,
Yeah.
or was
Just
it
to be
impromptu?
clear,
Somebody's
Pastor
making
Chano
her
and I
rounds
had
dating all the
never
pastors
dated.
around here, huh?
I've never
Just
dated
kidding.
anyone in the state of Oklahoma, just to be clear, other than Debs. But when I was back in Texas, anyways, dating was never really serious. And that's what I think was fun, is like I think it's like, yeah, have fun, go on dates. I want to be careful not to like, you know, we don't want to restrict so much or make something seem bad or this is going to lead you down the road. It's like, yes, date, have fun, but just always have a boundary set before that. So always know where you stand, know what you're okay with, what you're not okay with. And what?
No, it's great. And I was going to transition to two things. Number one, I was going to have you communicate. You made a decision that you weren't going to date anybody. To tell that story, you weren't going to date anybody until you feel like you met the guy you were going to marry. But before you tell us that, I think we need to clarify your date with Pastor
I say
Chano
something?
for the benefit of everybody that might be
That
going,
was
wait,
at
what?
ORU when we were at Oral Roberts
just
University.
go ahead and clear the mud there, clear the air.
There's what do they call them? Like brother sister wing dates. Like you get a date to go to something, and so we went on, I don't know, one or two of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It wasn't
What
like
is cool?
Yeah, you probably
and
shouldn't
if-
call them brother-sister dates. That's weird.
Did I say
thing.
it's because we called our wings brother sister wings.
Yeah,
That's what the wings are called,
there's a
yeah.
lot to unpack there, Brian. It's a good point, but we don't have time for that right now. It's a whole nother conversation. But what's interesting, if you do know us and you know our group of we're so blessed with
Yeah.
this community of Guts Church and all of our friends, but some of our longest friends and the closest friends, it's amazing how I met them a couple guys in 1998. She met the same guys at ORU, and then later, obviously, we got married, and now we're still friends here, all at the same church. And so we'll get to that in just a second. But I do want you to just kind of talk for the benefit of young adults or college-age kids that could see this, or young single people where you made a decision at some point. Tell the story of like why you got to that point, or what that resolve was. And your devotion, saying, I'm not going to date anybody till whatever. Or
Well,
that
I mean,
Right or
I know
wrong?
I keep saying this, and so I don't want to sound redundant, but honestly, to me, this is the foundation of life, and what it always comes back to is being led by the Spirit. Because I was in a serious relationship when I was at Bible school, and I felt like the Lord kind of showed me that He wasn't the one. So we broke up, and I remember that night I was praying, and I was like, God, I just want to focus on you. I want to grow in you. I had, this was right after high school. I had just truly given my life to the Lord, had started like getting in the Word and understanding things and gaining knowledge and understanding. And so I said this prayer like, God, I want to focus on you. I don't want to, and this is just me, okay? So this was just my own personal preference. I was like, I don't want to do the whole dating things. I don't want to, this question is funny. I don't want to I just didn't want to do that. I wanted to guard my heart. I wanted to be at a place where I just didn't want any drama. I'm a very no drama, not into it kind of person. So I didn't want to do that with dating. I was like, when it's the right person, God, I want you to show me, and then we'll date, and then we'll get engaged. I don't know. Whatever. I don't know if that sounds weird. But anyways, I was like, God, I commit to 1 year of not dating, because I dated all through high school. Then I dated this guy at Bible school. And so I was like, God, I commit to 1 year of not dating. So then, like 5 years later, I was like, oh, wow, thanks, Lord. Because the whole time I was at ORU, I didn't date. I mean, I went on a date.
What you mean is, thanks,
but I
Lord.
didn't.
Come
right.
on.
Yeah.
Find the right tone.
But that's actually how it happened. Like, God honored that. And again, back to just being led by the Spirit, I just, I did go on dates. Of course, I had crushes on different guys and stuff like that, but it was never like, right, and it was funny because during our internship year, you're not supposed to date during the internship, we truly were just friends. Like, I remember telling one of the girls, I want to find somebody great for Dubs because he's awesome. But it truly, nowhere in my mind did I think it would be me. Like, honestly.
Do you remember that conversation? This might be fun for you guys.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting ahead because we're going to talk about our church experience here in just a
Yeah.
minute. But and I have a question about friends. But we were friends, and toward the end of the year, when you're allowed to start dating again, she started going down this whole list of all these girls in the church, which is a fun game, by the way.
I was excited
if
to
you're
help
a single
him
guy
find
and you have a
someone.
single friend who's a girl. This is a fun game. Have her make a list of all the girls in the church and just go down the list. Would you date this person? And so that was fun. But she went on the list and she put her name on there. She put her own name on there.
As a joke.
Whatever. And she said, and I said, there's no way that wouldn't work. Like, there was this, like, I don't know how to explain it. We were great friends, but it's just like it would never work. We're too different. We probably as with any good friendship, you also kind of bug each other, right? And so I just thought it wouldn't work. And so we literally had a conversation about how we couldn't date and it work out. And of course, now here we are 13 years later. But I want to, before we go to church experience.
Should we answer the question or?
Well, they're going to tell us about. There's a question from the audience that wants to know about our first date, which I'm going to defer to her
remember.
because she doesn't know it. She couldn't tell you. So
I don't have the best memory.
Yeah, if you want to know any personal scoop about us and our life, you're going to have to ask me because, But our first date, she said,
these questions
"This is."
from?
Let me go ahead. I'm getting off script here. This is what she says.
It's just from
she
the
tells
audience.
me. I
Just
said,
the
"Hey, we're
audience.
going on this date."
Random people in the audience.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
random people. She says, so we're friends, we're hanging out, and she started, she started feeling the vibes. Like, she's like, I'm liking him, and I'm starting to feel the vibes, thinking, man, this is interesting. And so we went and had a conversation about it. But then we went on a real official first date, and she told me she didn't want to do anything active. She didn't want to go play putt-putt or go do anything active because she's not into that. And I'm thinking, okay. And her favorite restaurant is Olive Garden, or one of her favorite restaurants. And so we went to the Olive Garden, and I don't remember what happened after that, to be honest. But that's what we did. We went, and we probably went to a movie. But I want to circle
I like
back real
movies.
quick before we transition into our church experience and how we.
It was not like anything.
I want you to
crazy.
say what one thing is without just in a short few words. Don't go too long here. But what is something you look for? Because we have a lot of great friendships and a lot of community around us. This church is flourishing and thriving.
Yeah.
And you and I could talk for days on end about the value of being planted in the local church. We have so many people available to us and so many great friendships. But what is something that you value, that you look for in friendship, today? I mean, obviously you have your two girls that you grew up with that you still hang out with, but even today you have a lot of great girlfriends all around you. And what are some of the attributes that you just value and appreciate in friendships that maybe somebody could glean from?
Yes.
Obviously, you're a thrill seeker. That goes without say. People know that, so you're looking for
Obviously.
that compatibility. But what is the character value that you look for?
Well, I mean, I feel like my every answer sounds super spiritual, but honestly,
You're a very spiritual person.
With the close, if we're talking about close friendships,
Just what are things you value in friendships? What is it that you value the most in friendships that you have, that you...
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
if you're looking to build a friend, what are you looking
Yeah.
for?
Well, I value the quality of that person spiritually. Like, honestly, when we talk, I don't want to hear negativity. I don't want to hear a natural response that would come from the world. I want to hear faith. I want to hear, if these are friends that I can, which I do have this group, that's why I'm saying it that way, that I can text and say, oh, guys, I'm just having a lot of things hit us right now. Just please pray. And the response is immediately 100%. It's scripture. I need that in my life. So that's the number one thing that I value first and foremost and that I appreciate about my close friends is that we're going to stand firm with each other, and we're all planted here at Guts. So we have been taught, we have a strong foundation
We're
of
like-minded.
Exactly. We trust God's word. We know his character toward us. We know the outcome. We know we win. And so when we're talking to each other, it's always faith. It's always positive. It's always uplifting. And that's something I couldn't do without. Like, I have to, the friends that I value so much in my life, it's just necessary. And I think when we face things, I would not want to face things without having that group of people in my life.
And a lot of that is the fruit of the culture that we all are growing up in the church. But I think too, and we've talked about this, a big part of trust is the friendship, the best value is being a trustworthy person, being a safe person that people can talk to you, that people can trust you with their confidential, vulnerable information. Vulnerability creates connection. And when we have the ability to get vulnerable with people, to be honest with people, it doesn't mean we're not in faith, but the reality is I'm fatigued, right? Like, life does happen. And I can still be full of faith, but to be able to be honest and to communicate my emotions or communicate what I'm going through, to communicate and to be able to trust people with stuff, that it's a safe place, that's also what I think is probably the most valuable thing that not only can you look for, but more importantly, I encourage you to be that for somebody because people need that in their life. One more quick thought on it.
If you're thinking, because I think a lot of times we just have been blessed with that, but I think a lot of times people are like, I don't have that. Or I'm not local. I don't have a Guts church that there's all these like-minded people with. And so honestly to that, I would say you pray and ask God to
100%.
give you someone. Like when I was in Bible school, I didn't know anyone there and I didn't know how to connect with somebody. And I remember one specific night just praying and being like, God, I need you to give me a friend. I need a friend here that wants to grow, that I can have fun with, that, all those things. And I mean, like, I didn't even realize God was already working someone out to that. And I had an incredible friend there that I was very close to the whole time at Bible school. And I feel like then at ORU, same thing again happened. And so ask God those things.
Yeah, that's really good. We have a question that's come in. It says, what would you say to anyone that's wanting to get married, but to them feels like it's not going to happen? It's a good question, Dusty. There's probably some variables there that we can't see or can fully understand.
Yeah.
But I'll let you comment quickly first, just to give a little bit of direction on that situation. Someone that's maybe wanting to get married. I assume this would be an individual, a single person that feels like it's never going to happen. What would you want to say to encourage that person?
Well, again, the only thing I know to do in situations like that where there's something that I'm wanting to see happen is to first and foremost take it to God. The word says, make your requests known to God. Say it. Ask. Don't just assume that God only cares about the big stuff or that God already knows. You go to God and say, God, this is the desire of my heart. Like, lead me in the right direction and then show me the way to go with that. Do I need to take and if it is getting married, if it's someone single, I am just a firm believer you don't have to make it happen. To me, I think God divinely orders our steps. I think he makes a way where there seems to be no way. I think God leads and guides us. And so putting it before God and then being led. If get out there more. If you're just like sitting at home thinking, why haven't I met anyone yet? Maybe be more social. Maybe work on the things that God's leading you to work on to get better and be better so that when that time does come, it fits and it's right and it's healthy.
Yeah, that's good. But I would also say putting yourself out there in the right places.
Well, yeah.
You want to be in the right environment.
The places that God's leading you to.
But I do agree with that. And, it's one of those things of being patient. Number one, don't receive any doubt that thinking it's never going to happen. God, we compare what God is doing and the promises of God through our lens of how we're told it's supposed to happen on the world's timeline and pace. And so we're supposed to graduate and then go to school and then get a job and then get married and then have kids. And if it doesn't happen in that routine, then we're thinking God's not present. And that's just not the case. You may have a very unique story and the desires of your heart God can still bring to fruition. even though it may not be happening the way that it typically could happen. So obviously we never give up hope. And I would tell you too, just to keep asking, she mentioned about asking for a friend, and I'm going to circle back to that for just a minute before we transition. But I did the same thing. I'm 19 years old. I just gave my life to God as a young adult for myself, right? I grew up in a church setting with my mom, but I was sitting there in her basement on the blue recliner, and it was a Friday night, and I knew where all my friends were, and I'm sitting at home, and I'm thinking, God, I don't know if this is going to work, like we're going to have to, and I was like, I need a friend, and sure enough, God provided that friend that was the catalyst for the next year and a half. I eventually went to a place called Teen Mania in 1998, where I met Pastor Chano and Sean Schaefer and Chris Hart, and then that was the reason I moved here to Tulsa in 2003, was to come here to get around these guys going this direction. And I didn't know anything about Guts Church. I didn't know anything about that or what was going on. I didn't know who Pastor Bill was, but I thought if I get around these guys, my life will go this way. And so now I went from, God, I need one friend that God provided that created an opportunity to be a chaperone at Teen Mania, where I decided to be an honor academy, where I met 3 guys that now I moved to Tulsa, and now I have 100 people. And so it's amazing how God can give you more than you could ask for. He is a God of abundance, even in the realm of friendships and relationships. And on that note, I want to talk to you about how you got to Guts Church. You went to Bible school at TBI, Texas Bible Institute, and then you came to ORU, and there was a thing here at Guts Church called Sub 30 that I think you're invited to. But tell us, I mean, I just kind of highlighted how I got here, but how did you get to Guts Church? You're here going to ORU, and how did you get here?
So I came to ORU, and like he said, he had met those guys at Teen Mania. They happened to be on my brother wing at ORU. So when I moved to Oklahoma, I didn't know anyone in this state. I'm from Texas. I didn't know anybody in the state of Oklahoma. And so I was at ORU, still kind of deciphering, like, should I move back home? Because I just moved really far away and I don't know anyone here.
Nina was quarantining before it was popular. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Even in college. Before it was a fad, she was already quarantining in those days. But
so my second day at ORU, we met our brother wing, which Pastor Chano and Sean Schaefer were on my brother wing. I met them, became friends with them. They introduced me to Pastor Tara Trevino, other people that were at the church at the time. And so I didn't start coming to Guts right away, but because of that connection I had made with them over the years, and especially when Sub 30 launched, they started inviting, like, hey, you need to come to Sub 30. Then pretty much at that time, ORU, there was a lot of ORU people coming to Sub 30. So finally,
but what was tell them your first impression too? Like you said, this isn't for me.
Well, I felt like it was kind of intense, and just kind of intense.
Was your first? This is your first impression?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, and we talk about this kind of in your face. Like, it's not a place that you probably can just come, sit, have a good church service, and go on about your life for the rest of the week. And what's cool now is I realized. So my senior summer, I went home, or junior summer, I went home, and I was praying, like, God, do I need to be at Guts? And I remember the thing that really stood out to me was, and God just kind of showed me, where do you feel challenged? Where do you feel like you're being made to grow and get better and be challenged? And of course, I'm like, well, Guts, because I don't feel like I can go there and not grow or do something or think about other people. And so that was when I came back. I attended Guts my senior year. I finished in December, and then somebody put the internship in front of me, and I did it.
Yeah. So you did do the internship. We were in the same class, which is where we met. Mm-hmm. And an interesting little point, I remember I'd already decided I was going to do it, and we had our team pretty well. And it was the week before, before you decided the internship. She'd graduated ORU. She was thinking she was going to get her master's. Then she decided that wasn't for her.
I did one
she's
semester.
working a job,
I was like,
and she
no,
was just thinking, maybe there's something else, but that wasn't on her radar. And I remember Eric Hansen, he and I were are really good friends, and he and I were working together a lot at the church at that time. And I remember how he said, he said, like, Nina's this piece that we need. She's like the last piece of our puzzle this year. And I remember thinking that's right. And I didn't even really know her, which is just fun to think about now looking back. Mm-hmm. But I think Eric maybe approached her initially about it, and she ended up doing it. Even though she'd been to Bible school, even though she'd been to college and graduated college, she did the internship, and would tell you that that's been the most significant thing that probably obviously set you on the course that we're at now, which I think most people can fill in the blanks there. But I want you to tell us a little bit about what was your first impression was like, I don't know if it's for me, but you were being challenged, you're growing. Then you decided to do the internship. That obviously challenged you, you're growing. You met me. We started dating after the internship. What was your first job here at the church? What was some of the first couple of things you did? You've obviously been on staff now. We graduated in 05, so about 15 years.
Yes.
So what were some of the first things you did then that would be fun for people to know pretty quick?
Yeah, right after I graduated, I helped with the internship, helped administrate that, and then I also helped with Team Relief, which was this whole proposal I did about missions and the things we were doing in Haiti. And then Hurricane Katrina hit, started doing trips down there to Long Beach, Mississippi once a month. I think I went there 10 different times. And so lots of different things. I've been a part of Sub 30. Obviously, I loved being a part of Guts Girls. That's what I did for a few years. And lots of other things. I can't remember everything.
Yeah, you did a lot of cool stuff. You actually had the opportunity to get to go to Haiti once, which
Yes.
was very special, very unique.
Yeah.
It wasn't necessarily super safe for ladies to go at the time, so we were seeing a lot of fellas. Plus, it was just labor that a lot of guys with certain skills needed. But she got to go because she'd been administrating a lot and doing a lot. And that's actually when she said that she loved me for the first time. And you guys might appreciate this. She sent me a
Thank you for
text
sharing
in,
that with
in text
everyone.
format when text was still pretty new. Sent me a text, said she loves you, and then
It
you know what
was
she
amazing
did?
at the
She
time.
turns her phone off and throws it in her bag. So that way she doesn't have to engage in any conversation, no follow up. And I'm just like, what do I do with this? And that was the first time. Which, on that note, when did you know that I was the one for
my
you?
gosh.
Maybe expound on that for just a little bit. Like, how did you
Someone
know?
asked that, or you just
I feel like
asking
I sense that people are curious. Like, when did you know? You just thought, this guy's got it, right?
Don't remember exactly.
Maybe let's flip the script. What's been your biggest letdown? No, I'm just kidding. Don't go there. But yeah, that was a funny thing that she said that. But
I think
I
I would say it was that I just didn't stop liking you.
That a girl.
So that was good.
Get that right. How's it going now?
It's going good.
Yeah, right on. I tell you, I do want to. This is kind of funny, and this is, if you know us, maybe you can appreciate it. But we were walking. She had a house with a
my
few
gosh, what
neighbors.
is
This
this
was after
about to
she said
happen?
that text, and then she turned her phone off. And then it was not until she got back from her trip that I saw her again. And we're walking the neighborhood, and I don't remember how it all kind of unfolded. But I was just like, what made you say that or think that? And she said, and I'm going to kind of throw her under the
I
bus
don't
here.
remember what
I know what
I
she said,
said.
and she's going to remember, and then she's going to feel like the bus is run over. But I'm making a point here. I'm making a point. She said, this is one thing she said. Okay, this is going to sound superficial, but I want you to hear the resolve in it. She said, I just decided a couple of things that if certain things never changed, I still was going to love you. I was still going to be committed to you, which is a big part of marriage. It's just a commitment. It's just a resolve. And what's funny is looking back now, is that she said, one of the things, if you just never lose weight, I'm still going to love you. She had no idea the journey I was going to be on for the next 20 years. I've collectively lost over
More
500.
than I am on.
I have collectively lost over 500 pounds in my lifetime, okay? There are two invisible mini-me's right now walking around looking for a buffet that's closed because of the coronavirus, and they are mad. But that's how much weight I've lost,
Oh,
probably.
yes, okay.
Anyway, it's been a lot of up and downs. I just lose the weight now to show her I can, and that, but she loves me anyway. But the point is this. The point was this when it comes to marriage, because we're not going to have a lot of time to get into it. But
Yeah.
it's just a commitment. It's a resolve. I remember when we've been dating, and I remember thinking, well, are we gonna take this to the next step or not? And obviously, that's on me. And we didn't really have those conversations. That's not something we did or talked about. And I remember thinking, well, I'm going to go home and I'll ask my folks. And when I asked my mom, she said, you just need to evaluate the vows, for better, for better or worse, for rich or poor, and see if that's where you are. And I was like, that's pretty good advice. So I just kind of went through them, and I thought, let's do this thing. Like, it was so, I can't explain it. It's so practical, and it sounds maybe funny you could take it out of context that it wasn't like super romantic. I think there was some romance in the process and the engagement, but it was such a practical decisions. And even today through marriage, and I'm going to let you just kind of comment one or two quick things about marriage and parenting and where we're at as we start to wrap up. But there's a practical element to this. It's just a resolve that this is what we're doing. You've heard it said before, especially in this church, like divorce isn't an option. Like that's not a conversation we have, and we've never even thought that or felt that. We've never been to that, go back to we're super chill people, but that's just not a conversation. That's not an option. That's not even something to think about. And we just realized that where two become one, we are united and become one flesh under the covenant of God in marriage, and we are united in being the best that we can be for God, for giving our life to God, for being devoted to run this race for Him. We're united in our commitment to the church, to the tithe, to praying in tongues, to all the things that matter, but yet we're still very much two individuals, two unique individuals, right? I mean, things have evolved from what I'm about to use an example, but this is a good example, is that she's always been into shopping and e-news and celebrity news and stuff like that. And
Like
I've
10
always
years
been
ago.
into ESPN and CrossFit, whatever. Well, she doesn't have to become ESPN, CrossFit, and I don't have to become a shopping person. We're still two unique individuals. So there's a practical thing of just we're committed to going this way with our life and being everything God's called us to be. And I don't know if you want to throw, I just kind of waded way out in the deep waters there. But if you want to just throw out a thought or a perspective just on our marriage, something that you would take from our story, maybe there's a story you want to tell or something you've learned over the last 13 years that you would pay forward to people to encourage people, whether they're
Yeah.
new in marriage or young.
Well,
or
I
single.
think, before you get married, it's, deciding that, we were just very logical about it. And part of that is because I was very serious about guarding my heart and not letting my emotions lead the decision.
When I say serious, I mean I take her home and we couldn't get a hug at night sometimes. You know what I'm saying? Dropping her off and be like, hey,
I
no
had
hug?
to make sure he was really, willing to
Yeah, you did
go
that.
the distance. But part of it was that, a lot of times, and sometimes I see this, is sometimes people can become who they think the other person wants them to be. Well, 10 years down the road, you're married and the other person's like, hold up, I thought you were this, this, and that. And so I remember always being like, this is who I am. Make sure you're good with this. And then I was doing the same. Like I knew that his weight was, just to be honest, was something that he would deal with, all throughout his life. And so, which we all can. We all have those things that we can do. But I had to know that wasn't because, we can't allow circumstances or things that change to change how we feel or our stance or our commitment to one another. And so before getting married, that was big, is like, okay, I'm good with this and I'm choosing to commit right here. And then after, a lot of it too, like I forgot this quote, but we've talked about it before, where they say, before you get married, keep your eyes wide open. See the things you need to see. And make sure you're okay with those things. Once you're married, keep them half shut. Like you don't have to point out every negative thing. Just move on. You're married. No one's going anywhere. So
Figure it
enjoy
out.
the fun things.
Yeah. And work together to figure it out.
Yeah.
Obviously, and that was something I want to say too about like personalities and things like that. It's very, very insightful and very helpful to learn your personality. The Enneagram's obviously very popular, the DISC test, all that stuff. When you learn your personality, when you learn your love languages, there's 5 love languages, when you learn how you best receive and show love, those are all very insightful. But we have to be very careful that we don't hide behind our personalities. And when I say hide behind it and say, well, this is just who I am, you got to deal with it, right? Mm-hmm. What I want to do when I learn, everything's neutral. I want to learn how to use it properly, right? So for you Enneagram lovers, I'm primarily a 1 and she's a 5, right? So for me, it could always be better. And so what I'm just like, well, I'm always kind of driving like, we can do this better, we can do that, and it wears on her. And she's a 5, and she needs to isolate and quarantine and get alone for her sanity and health. And so it's frustrating me because I'm like, I need you to come out because I need things to get better. And she's like, I need you to back off because I need some space, right? But at the same time, we don't have to change, but we can't hide behind who we are and say, well, this is who I am, you got to deal with it, because that's part of working together. That's part of learning how to use it right for the common goal of fulfilling our purpose and being effective.
Well, and you look for the value in the other person. God put you together for a reason. You're married. Like I love, how Pastor Bill says it, like you're married. That's the one for you. You're intended to stay married. And so I have to look at it like, okay, that's a one. It can be like overwhelming for me and kind of like back off. But at the same time, I have to realize God did put us together for a reason. So what can I pull from that? I can't always constantly resist and just want to be who I am. I have to think, okay, there's a reason we're in each other's world together. There's a reason I can help him with some things. He can help me. And it's, I mean, you have to let go of pride. You have to let go of selfish thinking. I'm not saying that we do this perfectly every day, but I'm saying I know that those are the things that constantly are going to lead us toward being better together and being who God has called us to be.
Yeah, that's good. And just in fairness, we talk about the practicality of making these decisions. I remember sitting at a stoplight thinking, okay, now if I marry her, and then I move, say I go to Missouri, she goes with me, like in 30 years, she's still here. I was just going through this processing, but that I also had to think through in the natural, because she would tell you this. I didn't, I'm thinking, okay, she didn't even hug me the other day. That's weird, isn't it? Do I want to marry that? And then I remember thinking, we were at a wedding, and I love to tear up the dance floor. And when I say tear it up, I mean I'm sweating and it's profuse. I don't know that many good, but I'm all over it. And
you're a good dancer.
But she would never. Thanks, honey. But she never came out there, and I thought, golly, come on. And I remember thinking, if she never comes to the dance floor, is that okay? And my point in bringing that up is it goes both ways. It's you evaluate the situation and go, yeah, I'm okay with that. But here's what I've learned, and here's what's crazy. She asked me yesterday if we could make a dancing TikTok video.
You talk about coming a long way today, but
you talk about coming a long way, people.
So it's fine.
She. I'm like, what? Who are you? Where'd my wife go? It makes no sense.
I'll show it to you later.
So, yeah, trust me, it could go viral. It'll be a big deal. What was I going to say?
I have something to say about that.
Honey, I'm talking right now.
Okay,
No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead.
Actually, literally just lost my train of thought,
Yeah,
but I
you
had
did.
something good to go with that.
Usually when we can't either one get our thoughts, it probably means we need to wrap it up.
Yeah, we're done here. No.
Final thoughts on, we were talking about marriage, talking about the practicality of, you don't remember? It's gone. It's gone, people.
It has
It's
left
gone.
me. It was really
That's
good,
all
though.
right. Well,
Oh, wait, I do want us to say just one thing. Is we're so just grateful to be here. And by that, I mean at Guts Church under the leadership of Pastors Bill and Pastor Sandy. I mean, everything we're talking about has come from what we have learned and just has been built in us over the last 15 years. And so, I mean, hopefully this was helpful, but I just want to say we're just grateful. We're still learning, we're growing, and we're just thankful to be a part of this church family.
yeah, absolutely. We kind of really didn't expound too much in detail toward the latter end, but and even the role that this church has had in our life. Everything that I have in my life, and I just leave you this thought, has come out of being planted in this church. And I say everything. My wife, obviously, and therefore my 3 children, my friendships, my leadership, my hobbies, my work outside of here, all of these things have all sprung, our first house, everything has sprung out of relationships and being planted here. And so when we talk about the verse of those who are planted in the house of the Lord will flourish, that's how that works. You will flourish because of being rooted in a healthy soil, a healthy environment, and this place has obviously done that.
Yeah.
We knew that we were responsible for ministry in our life, and this church has challenged us, developed us, trained us, equipped us, and then promoted us and given us the opportunity and trusted us with leadership and trusted us with ministry. She even said, and this is not anything I think we always thought we would, but not necessarily, like she said, she always told me, I never want to be a pastor's wife, right? You remember talking like that? And now here we are getting operated as in a pastoral role. And the things that God has for you, some of them are probably not even on your radar. And I know that I'm putting words in your mouth, but I know because we've talked how fulfilling this is to serve. Because what happens is, as you're in this environment, it just grows and you grow and your perspective grows and your message builds and all of a sudden you just want to help people. And so we are thankful for the opportunity to get to do that and thankful for everything that's come out of this church. I want to encourage you to make sure you click on the subscribe button for our YouTube channel, like and share the Facebook page. Let people know about Guts Discipleship Live. It's every Thursday at 12 o'clock, and it's just a great tool to help you with wherever you're at. We want to do that. I want to remind you about the Drive Up Distribution Center tomorrow on Friday at 10 o'clock if you need groceries. I want to remind you about the Sunday service live. We're going to come right into your home, so make sure you join us live on Sunday. Stay involved, stay connected, keep growing, and let's be everything God's called us to be, all right? Let's go win.
Phew.